beneficent. This webinar is brought to you by SCSP, and I am Gurvish Barabar, the head of Organizing Council and student of 19 batch. Presenting myself as a host, I would like to welcome you all in this webinar. Welcome in the webinar Computer Networking. And I want to mention one thing. To have your question answered, you can drop it in the chat box. So without further delay, let me bring your attention to our honorable speaker, Dr. Qasim Ali Areen, who is an associate professor at Software Engineering Mehran University, Jamshoro, Pakistan. And he received his PhD in Information Security from Beijing University of Post and Telecommunication, China, through CSE scholarship. Not only that, he was awarded the International Student Best Research Award in all over China from Ministry of Education, China, and Best Research Student Award from the same university in Beijing on account of research contributions and performance. So let's welcome the only speaker, Dr. Qasim Ali. Over to you, sir. Sir, hope you are fine.
Okay, am I audible to everyone? Assalamu alaikum, students. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I'm so sorry. I was a bit outside, so just joined over a laptop. I have to say that I was on phone. So let's welcome you all. Just give me 3 minutes. Just give me 2 minutes. I'm just preparing a laptop and I'm just going to, uh, I mean, show my slides and all these things. Just give me 2 minutes, okay? And thank you,
All
39.
right, all right.
Thank you, 39, for introducing me. And I'm just going to start in a while, okay?
Okay, sir, we are waiting.
Yeah, sure. Okay, my screen is visible to everybody.
Yes, sir, now it's visible.
Okay, so let's start with my name is Dr. Qasim, and today I would like to take you to let you know about the computer networks, a brief introduction. And I think most of the students have, I mean, to say that they know me very well. I mean, I have done my bachelor's from Mehran University and then master's from IICT Jamshoro. And then I went for my PhD, I mean, to say that from Beijing University of Post and Telecommunication, China. I mean, I was there from 2014 to 2018, and then I have joined back Mehran University in July 2018, I guess. Yeah, and since then I'm serving my university to my department as well. and most of the students are from my department. I mean to say that software engineering department. And the important thing that I would like to tell you that uh, uh, I am also running. I was also running the Cisco Local Academy in Mehran University. I don't know how many of you know about the Cisco Local Academy. That was been I mean to say that introduced in Mehran University in 2007, and since then, from 2007 to 2012. I mean, most of the students from telecom department, computer system department, software engineering department, and biomedical also, electronics also, yeah. They joined that academy and being passed out from this particular academy. I mean, they have done CCNA from there, and now they are working in at some very good positions inside the world or also inside Pakistan, right? So that was my contribution, or that is my contribution towards computer networks. I mean to say that in Mehran University. At the same time, my PhD is in information security, and but most of the time, I mean, mostly I used to teach two subjects. I mean, one is computer networks and the information security that has just been introduced in the curriculum of software engineering, right? So. Before starting, I think what I know that most of you, I mean to say that either you are from telecom department, either you are from computer system department or from your software engineering department, you must have an idea of computer networks, right? So basic idea you must have, right? So let's start with the presentation. Objectives of our today's presentation or today's lecture or today's webinar is I need to tell you regarding the principle of networks. I mean, what type of networks are available, describe the basic networking concepts and technologies, the physical components of network, what type of LAN topologies are there, Ethernet standards, OSI and TCP/IP difference, I mean models difference. At the same time, how to configure a network interface card, identify different types of name, purpose, and characteristics of other technologies used to establish connectivity to the internet, identify and apply common preventive maintenance techniques used for networks, and how to troubleshoot a network. I don't know, it's a very long story. I mean to say that, I mean, it will take time, but I will try my level best to let you know each and everything in a very small amount of time. So before starting the principle of networking, let me ask you one question. What I used to do, I mean, when I'm going to teach, the students are going to ask after the lecture. So what you think during this, would you ask question from me, or should I pause and give you the answer, or what might be the procedure? Can anybody answer me this question or this query? Guys, are you there?
There, I think in the end we can have the time for question and
Oh,
answers so that you
okay.
can completely finish your presentation first.
Okay. Okay. Right. Right. So before starting, I would like to tell you the principle of networking. Networks are systems that are formed by the links. People use different types of networks every day. Mail delivery systems, telephone systems, public transportation systems, corporate computer networks, or the internet. Computers can be linked by networks to share data and resources. A network can be as simple as two computers connected by a single cable, or as complex as hundreds of computers connected to devices that control the flow of information. So, I mean, whenever I used to tell you the definition of a network is the connectivity between different devices. Either they are human, either they are end devices, either they are certain sort of mobiles, either they are computers. Until and unless two, three, or four devices are not connected with each other, we cannot say that they are a network, right? So the main definition regarding the network is when multiple devices are being connected in order to share certain type of resources, we can call them, or we can call that particular scenario as a network. Let's take an example of mail delivery system. Ultimately, it is the combination of multiple components which are being connected, and they are going to provide you different services. What type of services? I mean, you are receiving a mail, you are dispatching a mail, and all these things, right? Telephone system, they are being connected through a wire, through a wireless link. You are going to have communicate with the person who is living in somewhere in America, somewhere in Canada. There must not be any problem. Public transportation system, I mean to say that, let's suppose you have a car, you have a bus, but you do not have the routes. How can you communicate? You cannot travel. So you cannot call it as a network until and unless multiple vehicles are not being traveling over those particular routes. There must not be any path to travel or to share certain sort of resources. You cannot call it as a network, right? Then you have the corporate computer networks. This is exactly the example of a computer network. You can see your network example of a network inside your university, inside your lab, inside any bank, or inside any school or something like that. There are multiple computers which are being connected through certain sort of media. I mean, I would like to say that what is the media? Media is something, a sort of wire, right? It can be a wired media or it can be a wireless media. But this is something a discussion that we need to discuss in our future. But right now, you need to understand there must be some media which is going to connect multiple computers together. And finally, the internet. Internet is also an example of a computer network. I mean, if you need to tell someone that, I mean, somebody asks you that, what is a computer network? You can give an example. Internet is a network, right? Now, internet is the combination of LANs, WANs, MANs, PANs, local area network, wireless area network, metropolitan area networks. They all are being connected. They all are being get together and form a very larger network, and that's what you can call it as an internet, right? So this is the basic idea that what the networking is and why we use networking. I mean, let's take an example. Let's suppose you have 10 computers. You have 1000 computers at your home, at your office, or at your any premises where you are living, right? So if they are not connected, I mean, they are being present, but they are not connected. Even they are working properly, there must not be any problem. Can you call them they are the computer networks? No, because they are not being connected. And when they are not being connected, they cannot share the resources. Now, the next question is, what is the resource? That's what I'm going to tell you in the next few slides, right? So, exact definition, a computer network is a collection of hosts connected by a networking devices such as computers, printers, scanners, smartphones, and file and print servers. Resources shared across the network include different types of services, storage devices, and applications. Now, see, again, what he's saying that the networks or the nodes which are being connected by a certain sort of media, and they are going to share certain sort of resources. Now, what might be the resources? Your printers, your scanners, your smartphones, and any type of servers which are being the part of the network, right? When they are being connected, they might be the part of a network, and these are the resources which might be used by different set of peoples. Now, what type of resources it can be? It can be different type of services. It can be different site of storage devices, and it might be different sort of application. I used to give an example to my students that let's suppose if we don't have the network and I need printer, right? If there are 100 nodes inside I mean to say the lab or in an organization, what I need 100 printers for each device in order to print, in order to get the printing services inside that network. But if I have a network, what I need to do, whether they are 100 computers or whether they are the 1000 computers inside that network, I need to purchase only a single printer that is called as a network printer. What I need to do, I need to share that printer over that particular network, and anybody who is the part of that network can access that printer and can get print out of any type of document from that particular printer. Now, see, I mean, we reduce the cost, we reduce the time, we reduce the energy also by placing a single network, or sorry, single printer over that particular network, right? So this is what the advantages of a network. I mean, we are going to share the resources in the same way. If you have a single network storage device, you're going to share it on a network, right? Anybody who is the part of that network can send, can save his data or can retrieve his data from that particular storage device, right? So this is just examples that I used to give you, that what type of networks are and what are the advantages of the network, right? Now, how you are going to devise link together using a variety of connections. We have the copper cabling, we have the fiber optic cabling, and we have the wireless connections. Now this is an example of a media. I mean, one is called as your wireless media, another one is called as your wired media. So wireless media just contain your wireless connection, and wired media might contain your copper cabling and your optical fiber cabling, right? Now, what are the benefits for networking? I mean, first of all, we used to have a network, but what are the benefits? Fewer peripherals needed, increased communication capabilities, avoid file duplication and corruption, lower cost of licensing, centralized administration, and conservation of resources. Now, these all are the examples of doing networking inside your organization, right? I mean, let's take an example of social media. I used to give an example to my students. If you go back, 10 to 15 years back, right? If you need to send some file or some news to any set of peoples, it might require days, or you may call it as a month, right? Nowadays, if you have 20,000 followers over a Twitter or over a Facebook or over any of the social networking website or social networking, platform, that news is going to be propagated within a second. I mean, you just tweet it, that information would be traveled across the world within a second. Now just imagine what is the advantage of a network. Either it is a social network or it is a computer network. We don't bother about that thing, but what I need to say, they all are being connected. I mean, what is Facebook? In Facebook, you're going to make a friends. They are being connected. Until and unless you don't have the friend, your information cannot be propagated. That's what the advantage of the computer network. And second example that I have given you, that you are actually going to have the sharing of the resources. I mean, you're going to share the resources, and these resources are being used by different set of peoples, and this is going to reduce the cost, and this is going to reduce to say the licensing cost also. अब licensing cost की मैं आपको एक example देता हूँ. I don't know how many of you know about this. We have purchased a software application in software department, that is IBM softwares, right? And these softwares were too much costly, and we have spent a lot of money over those particular software. Now, what is the advantage? If you are going to buy single license for that particular software, you need to pay, I don't exactly remember, but $60,000 to $70,000 for that particular software, right? Or $25,000. But this is again a big amount of money. But at the same time, if you are going to purchase the floating license for that particular software, now what is the advantage of that floating software, floating licenses? Floating licenses can be used inside a network for the same software. I mean, within $24,000, you are going to have the 70 licenses, floating licenses, and these floating licenses would only be used inside or over the 70 computers which are being the part of the network. Otherwise, what you need to do, you need to purchase 70 individual license, each of 24,000. Now see, what you have reduced the cost of licensing. Now this is the one example that I would like to give you regarding the advantage of the computer networks, right? Now, what are the types of network? We have LAN, we have WLAN, we have PAN. LAN key example, I would like to give you. What is a local area network? It is the group of interconnected computers under single administrative control that might be governs the security and access control policies that are enforced over that particular network. Now see, I mean, if you're talking about a building, single building, I mean to say that you can talk about a single office, you can talk about a single lab or like that. I mean, if the students are in software department, you can see your LANs inside your different labs, lab 1, lab 2, lab 3, lab 4, and lab 6. In the same way, the students who are in telecom department, they might have different types of labs, and inside those particular labs, you have the local area networks. But make sure the LANs are the computers which are connected by using certain sort of central device, and that central device is being called as your switch. we shall be discussing the switch, what are the switches, but you need to say that there the distance is limited. I mean, when we are talking about the LANs, the distance is limited. Distance is not so far like a WAN, right? Then the second type is WLAN. It's a group of wireless devices that are being connected to access points within a specified area. Access points are typically connected to the network using a copper cabling. Now see, let's take an example of our smart university system that is in Mehran University. Everybody can access internet wheresoever he is, right? I mean, let's suppose if you are in the telecom department, if you are in the software department, you have the edu rom, you are in the department and you can access the Wi-Fi inside your cell phones or mobile phones. Now see, how can it is possible? I mean, these access points which are being fixed inside multiple positions or multiple location inside the department, they are being connected with the ICPC. An optical fiber is coming and that is going to be terminated outside of the department, and that I mean to say that then it is being connected, and that wireless access point, or you may call it as an access points, are being connected through a backbone which is coming from the ICPC. Now ICPC is going to provide you an internet connectivity to those particular access points, and from those particular access points now you are directly catching the internet service from there through a Wi-Fi connectivity, right? So this type of network is called as your wireless LAN or wireless local area network. Again, it's a LAN, but this is called as your wireless LAN, right? Then you have the PAN. Very good example of a PAN. This is a very small type of network like your Bluetooth, like your mobiles, keyboards, printers, smartphones, mouses, tablets within the range of an individual person. PANs are most often connected with the Bluetooth technology. I mean, you have your remote control that is being connected with your television, right? You are going to connect to mobile phones with each other. You want to transfer some data, or you need to create a hotspot. Right now, as I was traveling on the highway, I don't have, I mean to say, that internet connectivity at my phone. So what I have done, I have make a hotspot of another mobile phone of my friend, and through that particular mobile phone, I'm going to access the internet, right? So these are the things which are being coming under the category of the personal area network, right? Then we have the MAN, Metropolitan Area Network, a network that spans across a large campus or city consisting of various buildings interconnected through wireless or fiber optic backbone. Now see, Metropolitan Area Network has a scope within a city or within a campus. I mean to say that they are being called as your metropolitan area network. They are not the WANs. I mean, we cannot call them as a wider area network. We cannot call them as a local area network, but in between LAN and WAN, there comes a middle type of network that is what you can call it as a metropolitan area network, right? Like a smart cities. If you have an example of smart cities or smart villages, you may call them as a metropolitan area network, right? Then you have the wide area network that is called as WAN, very popular term that is being used in today's world. Connection of multiple smaller networks such as LANs that are in geographically separated locations. The most common example of a WAN is the internet. Now see, one thing you need to keep inside your mind, your LAN always use switch as a hardware device, and your WAN would always use router as a hardware device, right? Your LAN works on a switches and your WAN always works on a routers, right? So WAN is a combination of multiple LANs which are being connected by using a routers. Make sure this is very important. I mean to say that point that needs to be understood. I mean to say that LAN is a single network which is being connected through a central device that is called as a switch. But when we are talking about a WAN, or you may call it as a wider area network, in which we have multiple LANs. Multiple LAN का ये मतलब नहीं है कि आप, अगर हम बात करते हैं सॉफ्टवेयर डिपार्टमेंट की और दूसरी हम बात करते हैं टेलीकॉम डिपार्टमेंट की और तीसरा हम कहते हैं बायोमेडिकल डिपार्टमेंट, we are going to say them a multiple networks. No, they are not the multiple networks. They are the same network. When you have the same IP, when you have a network which have a different network address, right? IP आपकी जब different होगी, different network address होगा, subnet होगा, this is what you can call it as a different. You can I mean call it as a different network, right? So you cannot say that कि जी अगर location different है कि जी एक lab आपकी telecom के अंदर है, एक software के अंदर है और एक biomedical के अंदर है. These are the three different LANs. Now we need to connect them by using a router. It could be a WAN. No, that must not be the case. ये काफी स्टूडेंट्स को ये चीज क्लियर बात नहीं होती कि ये आपके पास वैन नहीं होता. वैन आपके पास हमेशा डिसिमिलर लैंस को जब हम कनेक्ट करते हैं, आई मीन when we used to connect dissimilar networks, we can call it as a WAN. अब dissimilar network आप कैसे पहचानेंगे? I mean, how can you recognize that the lab which is being designed inside software engineering department and the lab that is being present in biomedical engineering and the other one which is being present in telecom engineering, how they can be different? How can you recognize it? By recognizing its network address or what type of network address it has, right? If it is a class A IP address, class B IP address and class C IP address. अब अगर आपके पास तीन different classes के networks हैं, this means that they are three dissimilar networks, right? Now to connect them, we use a router, right? So I think hopefully that is clear to all of you. Guys, are you getting my points, the way how I'm teaching you? Whether, I mean, are you getting each and everything? Because I need something from you. I mean, response from you guys also.
Yes, sir. Your teaching style is very nice. It's really helping us in knowing what type of vocabulary you should use in daily life and interact and how we interact with this network type problems.
Okay, I mean, all is fine now, means you are getting my point, because I'm not clear what you have said, but what I assume that it's fine, isn't it? Or you have asked some question? All right.
Sir, I think no one has questions, so everything is clear to all. You may continue.
Okay. Okay.
Sir, someone is asking to repeat the part where you taught the lane.
Sorry again. What I have to repeat? Can you please again tell me?
Sir, the lane, type lane.
Types of LAN. Okay.
जी.
Types of network, I think. LAN की तो कोई type नहीं होती. LAN. I mean, see, LAN is the LAN local area network which is inside a building. I mean, the network which are being spanned inside a building. Let's say an example of labs. I mean, I would like to give you an example of a Mehran University. I mean, we have different departments. Inside our different departments, we have different labs, right? So these labs might be I mean, termed as the LANs. I mean, we have the different LAN. So we may say that okay, this is the local area network, and LANs mostly inside the same building. I mean to say that these network are being spanned inside the same building. If you need to connect multiple buildings, or if you are going to increase the size of the LAN, it becomes I mean to say that metropolitan area network, because लैन की जो आपके पास मीडिया की लेंथ होती है ना, वो इतनी ज्यादा नहीं होती. ठीक है. इफ यू आर गोइंग टू एक्सटेंड योर नेटवर्क बियॉन्ड द लिमिट्स, you need repeaters. Repeaters means they need to repeat the signal, or they need to strengthen the signal, because your signal cannot travel up to that particular length, right? वो आगे चल के मैं आपको बताऊंगा कि there are certain media which is being used like twisted pair, 10 base T, 10 base 5 or something like that, that those media are going to show us the length of that particular मीडिया। आई मीन लेट्स सपोज 10 बेस 5 का मतलब ये होता है कि 10 मेगाबिट्स उसकी स्पीड है, बेस बैंड और ब्रॉडबैंड उसकी कम्युनिकेशन टाइप है, और 5 का मतलब ये है कि 500 मीटर is the length of that particular cable. I mean that is being used inside a LAN. Now 500 meter का मतलब ये है कि your signal can travel inside that particular cable up to 500 meter without any attenuation. After 500 meter you need, I mean let's suppose if you need to increase the size of the network or increase the size of the cable, so after 500 meter your signal would not be easy for traveling. You need to put certain sort of repeater. ठीक है जी, आपको सिग्नल को इनहेंस करने के लिए या उसको स्ट्रेंथन करने के लिए आपको रिपीटर लगाना पड़ेगा, एंड दिस इज नॉट अ गुड चॉइस. So rather than to use to use a repeater, you have to use some other media which might not feel or which might not exhibit any type of attenuation. I mean, hopefully that is clear to all of you. I mean, jiska bhi query thi, is that clear? Yusra, I think you were there. Is that clear to that student? I think that's clear ना. What I assume that कि respond नहीं आ रहा मुझे, तो clear होना चाहिए.
Actually, sir, there was a distortion in between during what you were explaining, so that's why maybe she's clear about that.
Okay, my voice is clear ना? मेरी बात तो clear है ना सबको? I mean मेरी voice तो clear आ रही है. There must not be any issue.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right now it's clear. You may continue.
Okay.
Yes, sir, she has replied now. She's clear about that.
Okay. All right. So it's clear regarding MAN and WAN. Now we are going towards a types of network. They are called as your peer-to-peer networks and client-server network. Most of the time students are not clear regarding peer-to-peer networks and client-server networks. When two devices are being connected with each other, in which every device is acting as a client as well as acting as a server, that type of network is called as peer-to-peer network. I mean, there is no any server. Everyone is client as well as a server inside the network. And this is what you can call it as peer-to-peer network. Now I'm reading it for you. Devices which are connected directly to each other without any additional networking device between them. That type of network is called as your peer-to-peer network, right? So each device has equivalent capabilities and responsibilities. इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि वो डिवाइस, दोनों डिवाइसेस जो होंगी वो क्लाइंट का भी काम कर रही हैं और सर्वर का भी काम कर रही हैं, right? Now let's suppose if you are going to connect two computers with a straight through cable or with a crossover cable, right? By using its LAN cards. So you may call them as a, I mean to say that it's a peer-to-peer network, right? So now second type of network is called as your client server network. In a client server model, the client requests the information or service from the server. The server provides the requested information or a service to the client. Very good example like a Gmail, like a Yahoo. I mean, whatsoever the web applications you are using or the web services you are using over a network, over an internet, what it is, they are client server networks. I mean, the client software is running at your browser, right? And the server is being present somewhere inside the world, or like USA, Canada, or Australia. Now, when you are going to send certain sort of request, right? Your request would be going to the server, and in response, the server will be sending you certain sort of web page that is being displayed onto your screen. So such type of networks or such type of client server applications are being called as your client server network. I mean client server आर्किटेक्चर के अंदर आपके पास एक क्लाइंट होता है और दूसरा सर्वर होता है. क्लाइंट का काम है रिक्वेस्ट करना और सर्वर का काम है सर्विसेज देना। सर्वर आपके पास कोई भी मशीन हो सकती है, जरूरी नहीं है कि वो आपके पास एक बहुत बड़ी मशीन हो, उसके अंदर बहुत सी हार्ड ड्राइव्स लगी हुई हो। आई मीन दिस इज जस्ट एन आइडिया कि जी ऐसा सर्वर होना चाहिए, बट व्हेन we are talking about a client server network, so it might be a client, it might be a server, and server is a device which is going to provide you different services, right? Now we have the bandwidth and latency, right? अब हमारे पास bandwidth और latency की क्या definitions हैं? What is the bandwidth? Is the amount of data that can be transmitted within a fixed time period. That's what you can call it as a bandwidth, right? And what is latency? Latency is the amount of time it takes data to travel from source to destination. Now, I would like to give you an example of a bandwidth. Bandwidth is something, let's suppose if you have a road, how many lanes are there? I mean, let's suppose if there are 3 lanes, this means that 3 cars can travel at the same time through that particular road at a single time, right? If they have the 5 lanes का मतलब ये है कि 5 vehicles can travel at the same time through that particular road. So I mean, as we are going to increase the lanes, the number of cars which can be passing through that particular road at the same time is increasing. So the same is being applied for a bandwidth. Bandwidth is the limit of the data that can be traveled through a particular, I mean to say that area in a particular amount of time. This is what you can call it as a bandwidth. Is the amount of data that can be transmitted within a fixed time period. How can we measure the bandwidth? In bits per second, in kilobits per second, in megabits per second, in gigabits per second. So this is the basic, I mean, building and blocks are measuring building and blocks through which you are going to measure that how much data has been passed through that particular area, right? I think you are very much familiar with the bits per second or kbps. हम रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में देख रहे होते हैं कि जी व्हाट इज द स्पीड ऑफ योर नेटवर्क, आपके नेटवर्क की बैंडविड्थ कितनी आ रही है, पीटीसीएल की बैंडविड्थ अपलोड और डाउनलोड कितनी स्पीड है, गीगाबिट्स में है, मेगाबिट्स में है, किलोबिट्स में है. तो व्हाट्स दैट्स व्हाट यू कैन कॉल इट एज अ बैंडविड्थ. अब लेटेंसी की क्या है? is the amount of time it takes data to travel from source to a destination. अब ये आपके पास टाइम है, वहां पे क्या था? डेटा था जो ट्रेवल हो रहा था. यहाँ पे how much time is being required to travel that data from source to a destination. That's what you can call it as a latency of that particular data, right? Data is transmitted in one of 3 modes. Everybody knows that. Simplex is a unidirectional transmission. I mean, that is called as your one-way transmission. Half duplex allow data to flow in one direction at the same time, and full duplex allow data to flow in both the direction at the same time. So these are the 3 types of data communication that might occur when you are going to do any type of communication, right? Then we come across a very important idea in a computer networks that is called as your IP addressing. हमारे पास IP addressing का कॉन्सेप्ट क्या होता है कि दिस इज IPv4. एक आपके पास IPv4 होती है और दूसरी आपके पास होती है IPv6. That is a newer concept that is being used today in I mean to say that, I mean how we are going to assign certain sort of IP addresses to certain devices. Now see what an IP address is. इसका सबसे simple सा आंसर मैं आपको समझा दूं. I mean for a very layman term के अंदर मैं अगर आपको समझाऊं, it is a some sort of address which is being assigned to a computer, to a device over a network. I mean जो भी दुनिया के अंदर इंटरनेट के ऊपर devices हैं इस वक्त, whether they are an IoT devices, whether they are the computers, whether they are the gadgets, any type of gadget, every device which is a part of an internet must have an address, and that address is being called as your IP address. Without an IP address, no device can survive over a network. जब तक IP एड्रेस नहीं होगी तब तक कोई भी डिवाइस सर्वाइव ही नहीं कर सकती, पार्ट ही नहीं हो सकती किसी भी नेटवर्क का. ठीक है जी. सो let me read it for you, the definition. An IP address is a unique number that is being identify a network device and is being represented as a 32-bit binary number that is being divided into 4 octets. अच्छा जी, पहली बात तो ये है कि वो 32-bit binary number value होती है, and that must be unique for every device over a network, right? Now these 32 bits are being divided into 4 octets. Every octet has an 8 bits, so 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8 becomes 32, right? And all are the I mean all these octets are being subdivided by using a decimal value. ठीक है जी, like if you can see an example on the second point, 190.100.5.54. Now this is how this is going to represent a simple IP address that can be given to any device over. मैं कंप्यूटर की बात नहीं कर रहा, मैं किसी स्पेसिफिक डिवाइस की बात नहीं कर रहा, मैं कह रहा हूँ कि जो भी नोड, whatsoever the node that is the part of a network has certain sort of its I mean to say that representation, and that representation or that address is being called as an IP address, right? So when a host is being configured with an IP address, it is entered as a dotted decimal number, such as 192.168.1.5. This IP address must be unique on a network to ensure data can be sent and received. Now, you have certain sort of classes, class A, class B, class C, class D, and class E, right? अब इसमें मैं आपको एक चीज बता दूं, लेट मी शो, या आई कैन टेल यू द डेफिनेशन ऑफ ऑल दीज थिंग्स बाय लुकिंग ऑन टू द पिक्टोरियल रिप्रेजेंटेशन, राइट? सो अब आपके पास क्लास ए जो है वो उसकी रेंज आपके पास कहाँ से स्टार्ट होती है? फ्रॉम 1 to 126. Whensoever जो आपका फर्स्ट ऑक्टेट होता है, अगर उस फर्स्ट ऑक्टेट के अंदर जो रिप्रेजेंटेशन है from 0 to 127 है, this means that, or 126 you may say that, so this is what you can see that कि this IP address belongs to class A, right? 0 and 127 are being reserved. अब ये जो डिस्कशन है ये तो अब हम जब आप कंप्यूटर नेटवर्क्स पढ़ेंगे ना तभी आपको पता चलेगा कि 0 और 1 को हमने रिजर्व क्यों किया है. One is called as your network address, another one is called as your broadcast address. तो आप उस डिटेल में ना जाएं, but as a layman you must be knowing that the range between 1 to 126, I mean डेसिमल की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं, बाइनरी की बात नहीं कर रहा. अगर पहले ऑक्टेट की रेंज 1 to 126 के अंदर है, you may think that, you must be sure that this IP address belongs to class A, right? If you have a range of an IP address from 128 to 191, I mean in between 128 to 191, you may call it as this IP address belongs to class B. And the same way, if you have a range of your first octet in between 192 to 223, this means that your class belongs to, so your IP address belongs to class C, right? And the same way, if you have class D, this means that ये आपके पास multicast address है, first 4 bits are always 1110. So if your IP address range for first octet is 224, between 224 and 239, this means that this is a class D IP address. तो चलें जी, if you are alive in this particular chat, if I'm going to say that 193.10.5.1, this IP address belongs to which class? Guys, 193.10.5.1 ये आपके पास कौन सी क्लास की IP होगी? क्लास A, क्लास B और क्लास C. हाँ जी, कोई
Sir, everyone in the chat box is saying it's class C.
Okay, I can't see the chat box. I can't see the chat box. I don't know why I can't see the chat box.
Sir, let me check.
You can't send message because you are not a member of that chat. I mean, I'm getting that message.
Sir, still you can't check the chat?
Yeah, still I can't.
Ah, okay. Sir, it's enabled from our side now.
I don't know what's the problem. Anyway, okay, let me 130. If you can please tell me if anybody's sending a message or like that, right? Because we don't have
Sure, sir.
such amount of time. I need to complete it. Okay. Anyways, so where were we? Yeah. So class A, B, C, and D, right? So there are certain private addresses. Reserve some internet addresses space for private networks. Private networks have no connection to public networks. Private network addresses are not routed across internet. Now see, अभी आपने सिर्फ इतना समझना है. I mean, I've just read this slide for you. There are two types of addresses. One is called as your public IP addresses. Another one is called as your private IP addresses. Most of the time, you people have heard that कि जी अगर आपने वेबसाइट अप करनी है, you need to purchase an IP address. अगर आपको कोई IP address चाहिए, in order to route it over an internet, you need to purchase that IP address. Other than that, you cannot do that. On the on the second way, और अगर हम दूसरी तरह की बात करें तो most of the time when you are going to set an IP address to your computer at your home, at your lab or somewhere like that, have you ever thought that कि I'm going to say 192.168.10.0? यू नेवर परचेज दैट आईपी एड्रेस. ये तो आपको फ्री में मिल रही है, आप अपने कंप्यूटर पे लगा रहे हैं, आप अपने घर के वाईफाई के अंदर डिफरेंट आईपी एड्रेसेस आप असाइन कर रहे हैं अपने कंप्यूटर्स को, अपने लैपटॉप्स को और समथिंग लाइक दैट. हाउ वुड यू डू दैट? एक्चुअली IETF has reserved certain sort of IP addresses for the private networks. जो आपको किसी भी यूजर को अपने लोकल एरिया नेटवर्क में यूज करने के लिए वो आईपी एड्रेसेस दरकार होती हैं. ठीक है. फॉर देम यू डोंट नीड टू पे देम, राइट, एंड दे आर नॉट बीन राउटेड ओवर एन इंटरनेट. मेक श्योर दे आर ओनली फॉर अ लैन. और जो इंटरनेट पे राउटेड होती हैं या इंटरनेट पे यूज होती हैं, दे आर बीइंग कॉल्ड एज योर पब्लिक आईपी एड्रेसेस, राइट. सो ये कॉन्सेप्ट आपने जहन में बिठा लेना है, राइट नाउ the reserved IP addresses for private network are for class A 10.0.0.0 to 10.255.255.255. इस रेंज के अंदर जो भी IP होगी क्लास A की, that is what you can call it as a class A IP address. और क्लास B 172.16.0.0 से लेके 172.13.255.255 इस रेंज के अंदर जो आईपी एड्रेस होगी, दैट वुड बी अ प्राइवेट आईपी एड्रेस फॉर क्लास बी. एंड द सेम टाइम 192.168.0.0 से लेके 192.168.255.25 के रेंज के अंदर जो भी आईपी होगी, दैट वुड बी अ प्राइवेट आईपी एड्रेस फ्रॉम क्लास सी, right? So you must be clear that the IP addresses which are in that range, that would be counted as a private address, and they are being used locally inside your local area networks. And all other ranges inside class A, B, and C, they are being used as a public IP addresses, and public IP addresses are being routed over an internet. ये वाली आईपी एड्रेसेस आपकी इंटरनेट पे राउट नहीं होती, ये सिर्फ लैन के अंदर यूज होती हैं, ठीक है। और इन जो आपके पास प्राइवेट नेटवर्क से जब आपका डेटा पब्लिक नेटवर्क पे जा रहा होता है तो ये कन्वर्ट हो जाती हैं पब्लिक के अंदर, और जब पब्लिक से आपका डेटा प्राइवेट के अंदर आ रहा होता है तो दे आर बीइंग कन्वर्टेड इनटू अ प्राइवेट आईपी एड्रेसेस। तो देयर आर सर्टेन प्रोटोकॉल्स व्हिच आर बीइंग परफॉर्मिंग दिस duty in order to convert your public IP to private or private to public, and this is how the things are being done. But right now because you are at the initial stage तो आपको पता होना चाहिए कि पब्लिक और प्राइवेट दो डिफरेंट किस्म की आईपी एड्रेसेस होती हैं, राइट। देन वी हैव द सबनेट मास्क. Every class has its default subnet mask. The subnet mask is used to indicate the network and the host portion of an IP address. अच्छा जी, एक चीज और बता दूं आपको मैं, हर एक IP एड्रेस के अंदर उसके दो पोर्शन होते हैं. वन इज कॉल्ड एज योर नेटवर्क पोर्शन, another one is called as your host portion. ठीक है जी. अब most of the time students are confused कि जी network क्या होता है, host क्या होता है, blah blah and all these things. In a very nutshell, I would like to tell you, network is something that is going to be connected by the routers. ठीक है जी. आपने नेटवर्क को देके आइडिया कर लेना है कि जी ये आपके पास वैन लिंक है या वैन कनेक्टिविटी, और जो आपका होस्ट पोर्शन है आईपी एड्रेस का, दैट इज गोइंग टू रिप्रेजेंट व्हिच कंप्यूटर हैज बीन असाइंड व्हिच टाइप ऑफ आईपी एड्रेस. अगर मैं कहता हूं 192.168.10.0, राइट, दिस मीन्स दैट दिस इज अ नेटवर्क एड्रेस. अगर मैं कहता हूं 192.168.10.1, मैं ये बड़े नटशेल में बता रहा हूं, और भी बहुत सी इसके अंदर कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज होती हैं, बट जस्ट फॉर योर अंडरस्टैंडिंग, 10.1 का मतलब ये है कि ये आईपी एड्रेस किसी ना किसी होस्ट को असाइन है आपके नेटवर्क के अंदर, राइट. सो दिस इज व्हाट यू कैन कॉल इट एज. अब इसमें नेटवर्क कौन सा होगा वो मैं अभी आपको बताता हूँ. नेटवर्क आप कैसे फाइंड आउट करेंगे. फाइन. Now the default subnet mask for three classes of IP addresses are, class A के लिए क्या होता है 255.0.0.0. This is a default subnet mask. I mean इसमें कोई किसी ने चेंज नहीं करनी. This is what they have decided. I mean the जो जिन्होंने IP बनाई है उन्होंने ये डिसाइड कर दिया है कि क्लास A के लिए क़यामत तक यही I mean to say subnet mask होगा. For class B 255.255.0.0. and for class C 255.255.255.0 for class C. अब आप लोगों ने क्या करना है, I mean बहुत से आपके पास बिगनर्स होंगे और बहुत से आपके पास वो भी होंगे कि जी अगर आपको कोई भी IP एड्रेस गिवन है किसी भी क्लास का, क्लास A का, क्लास B का, क्लास आई एम गोइंग टू स्पीक इन उर्दू सो दैट एवरीबडी मस्ट गेट एन आइडिया दैट व्हाट आई एम सेइंग, राइट. अब इसमें हमारे पास क्या होगा कि जी लेट्स सपोज मेरे पास एक क्लास 192.168.10.1 की एक आईपी है. अब अगर इसका मैंने नेटवर्क एड्रेस निकालना है, हाउ वुड यू डू दैट, व्हाट कैन आई डू दैट. अब 192.168.10.1 ये किस क्लास की आईपी होगी, कैन एनीबडी टेल मी. क्लास सी, राइट, क्योंकि 192 की रेंज आपके पास कहाँ पे आती है, क्लास सी के अंदर आती है. ठीक है, आई एम अगेन गोइंग टू शो यू दैट. देखें क्लास सी 192 से स्टार्ट हो रही है और 223 तक जा रही है. ठीक है, तो अगर 192 आपके पास पहले ऑक्टेट में आ रहा है, दिस मींस दैट 192.168.10.1, तो आपने बाकी तीन को भूल जाना है. आपने जस्ट पहले को देखना है कि जी 192 आपके पास कौन सी रेंज में आ रहा है, क्लास सी के अंदर. दिस मींस दैट दिस मस्ट बी अ क्लास सी आईपी एड्रेस. तो अब क्लास सी की आईपी एड्रेस है तो आपने 192.168.10.1 को एंड करना है क्लास सी के सबनेट मास्क, डिफॉल्ट सबनेट मास्क के साथ. ठीक है, एंड ऑपरेशन एवरीबडी नोज दैट 1 by 1 1 1 0 0 आपके पास एंड ऑपरेशन ऐसे ही परफॉर्म होता है. इफ आई एम राइट, राइट, तो ऐसे ही है. इफ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग ना, तो ऐसे ही होता है. ठीक है, तो आपने क्या करना है, अपनी आईपी एड्रेस जो भी गिवन आईपी एड्रेस है उसको आपने एंड करना है अपने डिफॉल्ट सबनेट मास्क के साथ. क्योंकि अब हमने अंदाजा लगाया, हमने कंफर्म किया कि हमारी आईपी क्लास सी की है, तो हमने क्लास सी का आईपी एड्रेस उठाया, तो उसमें क्या होगा 255.255.255.0. 255 का मतलब ये है ऑल आर वन. एवरीबडी एग्रीज कि 255 का मतलब क्या होता है कि जो 8 बिट्स हैं आपकी वो सारी की सारी वन है. दिस मीन्स दैट जो तीनों ऑक्टेट्स हैं आपके, ये सारे बाइनरी के अंदर 1 1 1 1 1 सारे 1 1 शो हो रहे हैं, मतलब पहली 8 बिट्स 1, दूसरी 8 बिट्स 1, तीसरी 8 बिट्स 1, ठीक है। और फाइनली जो डॉट जीरो है, दिस मीन्स दैट देयर आर 8 zeros there, that's why it becomes zero, right? because this is in decimal, तो मैं इसकी ऑक्टेट की आपको एक वो बता रहा हूँ, लेट मी या फाइन। तो अब अगर मैं इसको 192.168.10.1 से एंड करूंगा, तो व्हाट शुड आई गेट? 192 जो 255 से होगा तो मुझे 192 ही मिलेगा। 168 जब एंड होगा 255 के साथ, मुझे सेम वैल्यू मिलेगी। 10 जब एंड होगा 255 थर्ड ऑक्टेट के साथ, मुझे सेम मिलेगा। मींस दैट 192.168.10 एज इट इज हमारे पास रिजल्ट में आ जाएंगे। और 1 को जब मैं 0 के साथ एंड करूंगा, व्हाट शुड आई गेट? आई शुड गेट 0, राइट? एंडिंग ऑपरेशन में 0 मिलेगा, तो मेरे पास नेटवर्क एड्रेस क्या आएगा? 192.168.10.0. This is a network address of class C for this particular IP address, right? So this is how you are, any IP address you have been given, you need to end it with your default subnet mask of that class. Whatsoever the result you are getting, you would be calling it as a network address of that particular IP address, right? और नेटवर्क हर एक आई मीन टू से दैट आईपी क्लास के अंदर एक पोर्शन होता है आपका नेटवर्क के लिए, दूसरा आपके पास होता है होस्ट के लिए। तो इफ वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट क्लास ए, first octet is being dedicated for the network portion and the next 3 octets are being dedicated for the host portion. Come to class B. क्लास बी के अंदर पहले 2 ऑक्टेट्स आपके पास डेडिकेटेड हैं नेटवर्क के लिए, और जो दूसरे 2 पार्ट्स हैं, दे आर बीइंग डेडिकेटेड फॉर द होस्ट पोर्शन। एंड द सेम वे व्हेन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट क्लास सी, the first 3 octates are being dedicated for the network portion and the last octet is being dedicated for the host portion. So this is a very generalized idea that how the subnet mask works, how you find the network address, I mean, and what is the network address and what is the host portion, or what is the network portion and what is the host portion of any given IP address. Hopefully that is clear to all of you, right? अभी इस पोजीशन में मैं आपको यही समझा सकता हूं, but it requires a detailed discussion. But as we don't have the time, so in a very nutshell, I can give you an idea. तो अब बाकी जो डिटेल है वो तो अब हमें बाद में पता चलेगी जब हम डिटेल पढ़ेंगे। IPv6 is the extended version of an IPv4. Actually प्रॉब्लम ये है कि जैसे जैसे डिवाइसेस मार्केट के अंदर आई हैं, बिकॉज एज द IoT इज द पार्ट ऑफ दिस वर्ल्ड, आई मीन एवरी डिवाइस इज बीइंग कनेक्टेड टू द नेटवर्क, I mean to say the internet. So as the devices are increased, so it's very important for an IP that it must have to I mean fulfill the requirement of all the devices. Kyunki every device that is a part of a network, it must have a unique address that is called as an IP address. But as the number of devices are increasing and they are being so much increased that the IP version 4 IP addresses are being are in shortage to be assigned to the individual individual devices. So for that reason, the scientists have decided to move from IPv4 to IPv6. IPv6 हमारे पास क्या होती है? 128 bit और 32 bit hexadecimal value are further subdivided into 8 fields of 4 hexadecimal values separated by columns. IPv6 address has 3-part hierarchy. Global prefix, also called a site prefix, is the first 3 blocks of the address. Subnet ID includes the 4th block of the address, and interface ID includes the last 4 blocks of the address. If you can see on my screen, you have the global prefix, the first 3 octets, first 3 prefixes, the subnet ID single one, and the last 4 are the interface ID. So for now, you need only to know about that it's an hexadecimal value of its of 128 bit or 32 bit hexadecimal value, right? And which contains your global prefix, subnet ID, and an interface ID. But one thing I would like to tell you that is not so much popular everywhere in the world. The reason is you need such type of devices also, which might be compatible with an IPv6 address. You might need such sort of devices like hardware, software, like switches, routers, so that they can, I mean to say that interpret these particular IP address. Up till now, IPv4 is being running at different type of networks, right? So I would like to tell you regarding the DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. Now see, आपको IP, have you ever seen that? Now, DHCP is what? DHCP is Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, which is going to assign dynamic IP address to multiple devices. Most of the time, everybody is well aware when you are going to set an IP address for your computer, you have two options. Either you need to, I mean, obtain an IP address automatically, or you need to statically assign an IP address, right? If you are going to select an select an IP address automatically, it means that there is a server. There is a server which has been assigned this task to assign an IP address automatically. The reason is there is a pool of an IP addresses inside that particular server, and that particular server is going to assign IP address to all the devices of that particular network one by one, I mean from time to time. अब इसका advantage क्या है? Advantage ये है, if you are going to give an static IP to any device of over a network, right? What happens if any hacker or if any intruder is going to hack your computer or can compromise your computer? If the IP is static, for that amount of time for which your IP is static, he can get the control of your computer and can compromise your computer and can steal any type of information from that particular computer, right? But if your IP is dynamic, dynamic means that it is going to be changed after a few amount of time, after a few seconds, after a few minutes. So once he has compromised your computer, that is fine. There must not be any issue. But after a few minutes, when your IP is being changed, it requires the same effort again to compromise the same computer. So for that reason, the network administrator used to have a dynamic host configuration protocol or DHCP server inside your network, so that your computers are being assigned IP addresses dynamically, not statically. That is the main reason of an DHCP server inside your network, right? Then you have an ICMP protocol that is called as your Internet Control Message Protocol. I mean, one thing I would like to tell you, your IP is a connectionless protocol. आपने सुना होगा there are two types of protocol. One is called as your connectionless protocol. Another one is called as your connection oriented protocol. Connectionless protocol वो होते हैं which does not require any type of acknowledgement from the receiver. And connection oriented protocols वो होते हैं which requires a confirm authorization or confirmation from the receiver whether that message has been received or not, right? This is the difference between connectionless and connection oriented protocol. Transport layer के ऊपर हमारे पास दो protocols यूज होते हैं. One is called as your TCP, another one is called as your UDP. TCP is connection oriented and UDP is connection-less protocol, right? But when we are talking about a network layer, there is another protocol that is called as your IP protocol. जो IP एक तो IP address होता है ना, IP itself is a protocol. Protocol की definition, if you don't know, I would like to tell you that these are the set of instructions which needs to communicate over a network. This is what you can call it as a protocol, right? अब हम IP protocol की जब हम बात करते हैं तो any type of communication that is being done through an IP protocol needs not any type of confirmation from the receiver, right? हालांकि IP protocol is being used very generally inside a communication over a network, but it does not provide any type of confirmation or any type of acknowledgement from the receiver. So for that reason, there is some supporting protocol that is being used with an IP address, which is going to provide you the authentication, or you may call it as an acknowledgement from the receiver, and that is what you can call it as ICMP. तो ये चीज आपने याद रखनी है. ICMP is a supportive protocol to an IP protocol, which is going to provide acknowledgement to an IP protocol, because IP itself is not a connection oriented protocol. IP is a connectionless protocol, और उस चीज को कंफर्म करने के लिए या उसकी एक्नॉलेजमेंट लाने के लिए जो आपके जो सपोर्टिव प्रोटोकॉल यूज होता है, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज योर ICMP, right? So I think hopefully that is clear to all of you, is used by devices on a network to send control and error messages to computer and servers, right? This is the main reason to use an ICMP. अब ये कहाँ पे use होता है, that I would like to tell you. One command I think all of you have used most of the time, ping. Ping stands for packet internet grouper, right? Or goofer, you may say that. Now, this command is going to check the connectivity of any device over a particular network. I mean, if let's suppose you are going to say that ping 192.168.10.1, this means that you are going to check the connectivity of this particular IP address. This IP address means that this particular node over a network. ठीक है, ये IP address किसी ना किसी node को तो assign होगी ना, आपने उसको ping की है, और ping करने के बाद if you are receiving 4 ICMP echo replies in due amount of time, this means that that particular computer is being connected over a network and you can send and receive the message from that particular computer. But if you are getting response like time out, right, connection timeout or something like that, this means that that particular computer or that particular node is not reachable, is not connected. You cannot do any type of communication with that particular node. So ping is a simple command line utility used to test connection between computers, used to determine whether a specific IP address is accessible, used with either the hostname or the IP address, works by sending ICMP echo request to a destination computer, receiving device sends back an ICMP echo reply message. अब इसमें होता क्या है, आपको पिंग करते हैं आप किसी भी डिवाइस को, इन रिस्पॉन्स अगर आपको ICMP echo reply 4, वो भी 4 होते हैं, ठीक है, अगर वो आपको रिप्लाई आ जाते हैं, this means that your computer is working, not your, but the destination computer is working or it's connected. If you are getting response of to this particular command like request timeout or something like that, this means that your destination computer is not responding, you cannot connect with that particular computer, right? So this is how your ICMP and ping work together to give you an idea whether the computer is working or not, right? I mean, it's reachable or not. ठीक है जी, तो this is regarding what ICMP. Then you have a protocol की definition क्या होती है? A protocol is a set of rules. Internet protocols govern communication within and between computers over a network. Many protocols consist of a suite of protocols stacked in layers. Like devices and computers connected to the internet use a protocol suite called TCP/IP to communicate with each other. अब देखें, in a very nutshell, I would like to tell you, protocol is a set of instructions to communicate over a network. Until and unless you are not going to follow certain protocol, you cannot communicate. Like I used to give an example, there is a Chinese person, there is an English person or Pakistani person, right? They both don't know about their languages. I mean, Pakistani can speak Pakistani or English, Chinese can speak Chinese. He cannot understand English, he cannot understand Chinese. How they can communicate? They never communicate. The reason is they don't have the similar protocol or the same protocol to communicate. They do both have the different protocol. उसकी अपनी प्रोटोकॉल या सेट ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शंस हैं, उसकी अपनी सेट ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शंस है। अब अगर इन दोनों ने कम्युनिकेट करना है ना, तो दोनों को इन लाइन होना पड़ेगा। फॉर दैट रीजन व्हाट वी आर गोइंग टू डू, वी आर गोइंग टू हायर अ पर्सन which can speak Chinese, which can speak English or Sindhi or Urdu, and then he's going to translate in between them. I mean, he is going to listen to one person from Pakistani, translate it into a Chinese, and Chinese he's going to listen from Chinese and translate into an English or Urdu or Sindhi or like that, right? So this is how we are going to overcome that particular problem, right? The same is being applied over here. A protocol is a set of same rules and regulations which needs to be I mean endorsed by all the devices which are being used over a network, right? ऐसा नहीं हो सकता कि आपने सेट ऑफ रूल्स सैमसंग मोबाइल के लिए तो अलग बना दिए हैं, लेकिन आईफोन वाले जो हैं उनके अलग हैं प्रोटोकॉल्स, तो आप तो फिर इंटरनेट पे कम्युनिकेट ही नहीं कर सकते। इंटरनेट तो आपके पास एक जनरल आइडिया है। अब हर एक डिवाइस, आई मीन देयर आर मैनी वेंडर्स इनसाइड द मार्केट, देयर आर सिस्को, जेनिफर, आपके पास हॉवे है, पता नहीं कितनी कंपनीज कितनी डिफरेंट डिवाइसेस बना रही हैं। अब अगर हर कोई डिवाइस अपने प्रोटोकॉल्स बनाना शुरू कर दे, देन हाउ difficult it is to communicate. So what they have done, they have decided a single set of protocols which needs to be followed by all the companies, all the devices inside the world who are making certain sort of network devices. So this is the basic definition of an internet protocol, right? So the main function of a protocol is to identify the errors, to compress the data, decide how the data is to be sent, addressing the data, deciding how to announce, send, and receive the data, right? So the information is transmitted most often via two protocol, that is called as your TCP और UDP. अब देखें प्रोटोकॉल का काम क्या होता है। प्रोटोकॉल का काम क्या होता है कि आपके पास डेटा जब सेंड और रिसीव हो रहा होता है उसमें कोई एरर तो नहीं आ रहा, डेटा कंप्रेस सही हुआ है, डेटा हाउ डेटा नीड्स टू बी सेंट, आई मीन विच राउटिंग, किस तरफ से वो डेटा जाएगा, कौन से पाथ को वो लेगा, आई मीन डेटा आपके पास सही से एड्रेस हुआ है, देयर आर सर्टेन पोर्ट नंबर्स नीड्स टू बी असाइंड टू दैट पर्टिकुलर डेटा। अब ये सारी चीजें आपके पास OSI लेयर पे होती हैं, राइट? सो दिस इज द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ द प्रोटोकॉल टू डू ऑल दीज थिंग्स फॉर दैट पर्टिकुलर डेटा, राइट? दिस इज द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ द प्रोटोकॉल एंड प्रोटोकॉल इंश्योर्स ऑल दीज थिंग्स with respect to that particular data. अब TCP और UDP आपके पास दो प्रोटोकॉल्स हैं जो आपके पास ट्रांसपोर्ट लेयर पे यूज होते हैं। क्यों यूज होते हैं, वी शैल बी लर्निंग, राइट? सो excuse me, I mean 3130, I mean what is the time limit, can you give me, I mean up to when I have to stop, और कब तक चलना है, क्या करना है, can you give me some hint?
Sir, there's still an 25 minutes.
Okay, so we need to conclude in 25 minutes, isn't it?
Yes, sir. There are a few questions in the chat box.
Yeah. So should I answer them right now or after that?
Sir, it's up to you. आप बोलें तो मैं आपको बता देती हूँ वो
हाँ जी,
questions.
मुझे one by one बताती जाएं so that I can give them the answers.
Sure, sir. The question number 1 is, what two mobile phones connected via hotspot count as a peer-to-peer, or only cable connections are peer-to-peer?
Okay, देखिए peer to peer network requires two devices to communicate. So if I mean let's suppose if you are talking about hotspot network, hotspot के साथ तो I think multiple devices connect हो सकती हैं. I mean let's suppose if I have made a network, I have made my computer or my mobile phone as hotspot. So any of the device that is the part of that particular network, that is in the range of that, can be the part of that network. So we cannot call it as a peer. Peer to peer doesn't mean that कि this is something like कि जी wired network ही होगा, wireless भी हो सकता है, but that is between two computers which doesn't require any type of central device. Is that clear? It doesn't require कि जी एक client होगा या server होगा, दोनों जो computers होंगे they act as a client as well as they act as a server. They don't need any type of server client network or something like that. ठीक है, 130. I mean hope you get the answer.
Yes, sir. It's clear to her. Second question we have is that what is class EIP in network? Can you elaborate it?
Actually, I don't exactly remember class E. इस क्वेश्चन को आप थोड़ा सा बाद में ले जाएं, मुझे उसको थोड़ा सा उसकी डेफिनेशन देखनी पड़ेगी, मैं उसको देखूं कि क्लास ई किसके लिए है। आई मीन ए बी और सी इज फॉर वेरी जनरल, डी इज फॉर मल्टीकास्ट, देन ई इज फॉर समथिंग like I don't exactly remember, but this is also for some organization or something like that. So I can give the answer of this question later on, right?
Sure, sir. Should I move the next question?
Yeah, please.
Can you mention one protocol which is performing this job done, converting public-private IP?
Yes, there is a protocol that is called as, I don't exactly remember the name. आपके पास वो क्या होता है? Let me. Just give me a second.
Sure, sir.
That's what we can call it as a network address translation. That is called as net. नेट में आपके पास क्या होता है कि पब्लिक आईपी जो आपके पास नेटवर्क के अंदर होती है ना, दैट नीड्स टू बी व्हेन इट कम्स फ्रॉम वन। अब प्राइवेट नेटवर्क आपका कौन सा हो गया? प्राइवेट नेटवर्क इज योर लैन, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज योर लोकल एरिया नेटवर्क। और पब्लिक आपका आई मीन नेटवर्क कौन सा हो गया? योर वैन, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज योर इंटरनेट। नाउ आई वुड लाइक टू गिव यू एन एग्जांपल। यू आर इन मेहरान यूनिवर्सिटी, आपका पूरे का पूरा लैन है। आई मीन यू डोंट हैव टू कंसिडर इट्स अ वैन, इट्स अ लैन। I mean, there are 18 departments, they all are connected inside a LAN. This is a LAN. Now, your, I mean to say the default gateway is in the ICPC department and that is your router. अब उस router के ऊपर आपके पास net configured होता है। Net is called as your network address translation. I mean, when your data is going out from that default gateway, आपका क्या होगा? सबसे पहले आपका जो प्राइवेट आईपी एड्रेस होगा दैट नीड्स टू बी ट्रांसलेटेड इनटू अ पब्लिक आईपी एड्रेस एंड देन इट इज बीइंग राउटेड ओवर अ इंटरनेट। ठीक है, आपका कभी भी प्राइवेट आईपी जो है ना, वो कभी भी ट्रांसलेट कभी भी राउट हो ही नहीं सकती इंटरनेट के ऊपर। राउट का मतलब ये है डेटा को लेके जाना या ट्रेवल करना ओवर इंटरनेट। ठीक है जी। अब क्या होगा? इट्स फाइन व्हेन इट इज बीइंग कमिंग फ्रॉम प्राइवेट टू अ पब्लिक नेट, that is called as your network address translation, is going to translate your data to a public IP address and it is fine. That is being, I mean, translated. There must not be any issue. Now, when the data is coming from a public IP or from a public internet or a WAN to a private network, तो अब क्या होगा? अगेन आपका डिफॉल्ट गेटवे बीच में आएगा, वहां पे नेट परफॉर्म होगा। अब जो पब्लिक आईपी है दैट नीड्स टू बी ट्रांसफॉर्म्ड इनटू अ प्राइवेट आईपी एड्रेस and then your data would be switched or switched between your local area network and that's what you can call it as a by using that particular private IP address. तो private IP addresses always used in a LAN और उनका काम सिर्फ LAN के अंदर होता है, और public IP addresses जो होती हैं they always use in over an internet और उनका काम होता है डेटा को राउट करना। और in between जो आपके पास ट्रांसलेशन होती है that is being done by using a protocol that is called as your network address translation, or that mechanism is being called as your NAT. Is that clear?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Okay.
Sir, should I move to the next question?
Yeah, please.
That is, what would be the host and network part portion in Class D and Class E IP?
देखें, क्लास डी और क्लास ई के अंदर अगर हम बात करें तो उसके अंदर हमारे पास एज सच ऐसा कुछ होता नहीं है। उसके लिए भी मुझे देखना पड़ेगा क्योंकि मैंने क्लास डी और क्लास ई को इतना ज़्यादा एक्सप्लोर नहीं किया। ए बी सी को तो हम करते हैं। तो ये आपके पास देखें, यस, वन थिंग आई वुड लाइक टू टेल यू, मल्टीकास्ट का मतलब ये होता है ब्रॉडकास्ट। अब उसके अंदर आपने जब कोई भी आईपी एड्रेस सेट करनी है ना, दैट इंफॉर्मेशन वुड बी सेंड टू अ पर्टिकुलर सेट ऑफ यूजर्स। आई मीन जैसे हमारे पास यूनिकास्ट होता है, मल्टीकास्ट होता है, ब्रॉडकास्ट होता है। आई मीन लेट्स सपोज यूनिकास्ट मीन to a particular user your information is going. Multicast means you have to select multiple set of peoples and that information would be going to the set of peoples to whom you are selected. And broadcast means your all values are one and your information would be sent to those particular I mean to say that users or to all the users over that particular network. So for class D and class E that must not be the case, but I'm not sure. I'm going to repeat the same question that you have asked so far in the class E for, तो इसको मैं बाद में थोड़ा सा मैं आपको explain कर दूंगा। ठीक है, तो for that I think there must not be any sort of I mean to say that portion, but they are being used for a special type of network like your multicast जहाँ पे आपके पास communication हो रही होती है or something like that, right?
Right, sir. The next question we have is, what if hacker have a global static IP address provided by our IPS? Can hacker still hack our system? Will DHCP server feature block the hacker to make connection to our system?
ओके, देखिए जी, सबसे पहले मैं आपको एक बात बताऊं कि nowadays your IP address is not static most of the time. If you are a part of Mehran University network, even everybody is going to assign an IP address dynamically and they are sorry automatically, and you are going to be assigned by something like that, right? Then you have a very important thing that is your physical address, that is called as your MAC address, which is being burnt over your network. I mean burnt over your network interface card. अब देखिए जो इंट्रूडर होता है ना, जो अटैकर होता है, अटैकर इज गोइंग टू अटैक योर कंप्यूटर बाय यूजिंग सर्टेन सॉर्ट ऑफ वल्नरेबिलिटीज। vulnerabilities क्या होती हैं? There are certain ports which are being opened over that particular network, ठीक है जी, over that particular computer। अब वो different ports होते हैं, अगर वो ports opened हैं and they are open, anybody can travel, break into their system and can steal that particular data or can take the control of that data। But before that, if your IP is static, that is 100% chances कि आपके पास वो compromise हो सकती है, ठीक है, there must not be any issue। अगर आपकी IP डायनामिक है, आई मीन इट इज गोइंग टू बी चेंज विद इन अ फ्यू अमाउंट ऑफ सेकेंड्स और फ्यू अमाउंट ऑफ मिनट्स, देन इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर एन हैकर टू कॉम्प्रोमाइज दैट पर्टिकुलर, आई मीन टू से दैट IP एड्रेस। तो मतलब कहने का ये है कि इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट व्हेन योर IP इज डायनामिक, बट अगेन इफ somebody is going to take control of your MAC address and make sure MAC address will never going to be changed, it would remain same for the whole of your life, for whole of the life of your computer। So once your MAC address is being compromised, अगर किसी को MAC address over a network पता चल जाता है, तो he can get the IP address of that particular computer by using that particular MAC, or then it can compromise your computer from time to time without any problem, right? So these are the issues। लेकिन अगेन मैं आपको एक चीज बताता हूँ कि you need to put certain sort of restrictions, like you have the firewalls, you have the intrusion prevention system, you have the intrusion detection system that needs to be applied over a certain points inside a network so that any intruder cannot हैक यूर सिस्टम। अब हैक करने के लिए डेफिनेटली वो ट्रेवल करके आएगा ना, आपके राउटर को क्रॉस करेगा, राउटर को क्रॉस करने के बाद आपको स्विच को क्रॉस करेगा, स्विच के क्रॉस करने के बाद वो आपके कंप्यूटर पे आएगा। तो वो यहाँ तक पहुंचा ही कैसे? आपने अगर उसको राउटर पे ही रोक लिया होता तो वहां पे आपकी फायरवॉल्स लगी होती, फिजिकल या लॉजिकल या सॉफ्टवेयर अगर हम कहते हैं, और अगर इन बिटवीन आपके पास पैकेट लेवल फिल्टरिंग हो रही होती, जिसको हम IPS या IDPS के थ्रू कर रहे होते हैं, तो it would be very difficult for him to compromise your computer। but make sure when you are a part of a network you are vulnerable। आपको कोई भी किसी भी लेवल के ऊपर कॉम्प्रोमाइज कर सकता है, लेकिन जो आपके पास एंटरप्राइज नेटवर्क्स होते हैं, they are going to protect themselves by shielding them against those particular attacks, और उनके different level of attacks होते हैं, so that they have the first level, they have the second level and they have the third level of प्रोटेक्शन। तो अगर आपका कोई अटैकर या आपका जो इंट्रूडर है वो फर्स्ट लेवल को क्रॉस करके आ जाता है, तो वो सेकंड लेवल पे स्टॉप हो जाता है। अगर वो सेकंड लेवल को भी क्रॉस कर जाता है तो इट माइट बी, आई मीन टू से दैट, कैप्चर्ड इन द थर्ड लेवल, ठीक है। तो इतना कोई भी इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग अटैकर नहीं होता जो आपके पास तीनों लेवल्स को क्रॉस कर जाए और वहां पे आ जाए। अब ये जो सारी की सारी सिक्योरिटी पॉलिसीज होती हैं, दे आर बी द पार्ट ऑफ एनी सॉर्ट ऑफ एंटरप्राइज नेटवर्क। लेकिन अगर हम अपनी बात करें, आई मीन यू आर यूजिंग इन मेहरान यूनिवर्सिटी, यू आर यूजिंग योर कंप्यूटर एट योर होम्स, तो might be you don't have such type of security। So for that reason it is very much obvious that somebody is going to take an access of your computer by using an IP address or by using your MAC address and can compromise your computer। I think that's clear।
Sir, I hope it's clear to Afan. Next question is, what if we connect our local system using bridge network to direct connection with our public IP without using NAT?
Sorry, without using an
NAT.
NAP what?
NAT.
Network address translation, NAT, that's what, that's
Yes.
what.
Sir, I guess he's using capital letters NAT.
NAT. I'm not getting actually the question, what he wants to say. I mean, bridge, and then bridge is something like they want to connect.
Sir, should I repeat the question?
Please.
What if we connect our local system using bridge network to direct connection with our public IP without using NAT?
देखिए, आई मीन इट्स अ वेरी कॉम्प्लेक्स क्वेश्चन, जो मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहा वो ये है कि देखिए, ब्रिज आपके पास एक इस तरह की डिवाइस होती है व्हिच हैज टू कनेक्शंस ना, वन इज ऑन द राइट हैंड साइड एंड वन इज ऑन द लेफ्ट हैंड साइड, एंड इट इज जस्ट, I mean you can connect them। अब इसको आप आईपी एड्रेस से कनेक्ट कर रहे हैं और आईपी एड्रेस आपका पब्लिक आईपी से कनेक्ट कर रहा है. आई मीन आई एम नॉट एक्चुअली understanding the scenario actually. The thing is,
Sir, by net he means network address translation.
yes, that's what I mean to say. That again, network address translation is something between your public and private IP addresses. ठीक है जी. Public network को I don't, what is the name of that particular student? Can you tell me the name, please?
Sir, Afan.
Afan. Afan, see, देखिए,
Afnan,
if
sorry, Afnan.
Afnan, 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 okay. If you have a private IP, private का मतलब ये है कि it is inside a LAN. अब अगर inside a LAN है वो, तो आपके पास वो switch use कर रहा है, bridge use कर रहा है, या वो आपके पास hub use कर रहा है. That is not a discussion. But the thing is, this is inside a LAN. Now, when he will be going, I mean not he, but when your data is going from a private network to a public network, तो प्राइवेट और पब्लिक के अंदर आपके पास डिफरेंशिएट क्या है? डिफरेंशिएट ये है कि इनसाइड अ लैन यू हैव द स्विचिंग और इनसाइड अ वैन यू हैव अ राउटिंग. ठीक है जी. तो स्विचिंग आपकी सारी की सारी प्राइवेट आईपी एड्रेसेस के ऊपर हो रही है. अब जैसे ही वो डेटा राउटर के थ्रू बाहर जाएगा आपके डिफॉल्ट गेटवे से, तो इट बिकम्स द पार्ट ऑफ अ पब्लिक नेटवर्क. अब पब्लिक नेटवर्क के ऊपर प्राइवेट आईपी कभी भी अंडरस्टैंडेबल होती ही नहीं है. पब्लिक नेटवर्क कभी प्राइवेट आईपी को अंडरस्टैंड ही नहीं करेगा. तो उसके लिए उस डिफॉल्ट गेटवे के ऊपर आपके पास एक नेटवर्क एड्रेस ट्रांसलेशन का मैकेनिज्म परफॉर्म होता है, जो आपके पास क्या करता है, आपके प्राइवेट आईपी को मैच करता है, या आप कह लें कि इंटरकनेक्ट करता है पब्लिक आईपी के साथ. ठीक है. और आपका डेटा राउट होना शुरू हो जाता है ओवर एन इंटरनेट. अब जब डेटा सेम वापस आता है प्राइवेट नेटवर्क के लिए, तो अब वहां से तो पब्लिक आईपी आ रही है, तो उस डिफॉल्ट गेटवे के ऊपर आपकी जो पब्लिक आईपी है, दैट नीड्स टू बी ट्रांसलेटेड, या हम कहें कि कन्वर्टेड तो खैर नहीं हम कह सकते, इट नीड्स टू बी translated into a private IP address, and then it can be sent to a private network, and then it can be go to a particular host or whatsoever it could be. So this is what I perceive or what I assume that what he wants to ask. ठीक है जी. अब उसमें अगर हम डिवाइसेस की बात करें, तो might be it's not so important, but the thing is we need to understand कि जी प्राइवेट नेटवर्क कौन सा है और पब्लिक नेटवर्क कौन सा है. प्राइवेट में हमेशा प्राइवेट आईपी एड्रेसेस ही यूज होंगे. ठीक है. और पब्लिक हमारा जो इंटरनेट है, जिसको हम प्राइवेट नेटवर्क को हम लैन कह देंगे और पब्लिक नेटवर्क को हम कहेंगे जो हमारा इंटरनेट है. ठीक है. और वो हमारा कभी भी प्राइवेट आईपी को अंडरस्टैंड ही नहीं करेगा. सो फॉर दैट यू नीड टू परफॉर्म नेटवर्क एड्रेस ट्रांसलेशन बिटवीन दीज टू नेटवर्क्स. Right?
Right, sir. He's saying, sure, we will discuss this question later in details. Sir, he have the
He's,
next
I mean,
question.
Afnan is from 20 ME student. He's my ME student, I think. He's doing some job somewhere like same Afnan. Can you ask him? Okay, no problem.
Sir, he have next question. Yes, sir. He's saying he is the same student.
Yeah, okay. Yes, please.
Uh, is it possible to change Mac dynamically by using masking on Mac, like using different masking layers on Mac?
Actually, I mean, if you talk about this question 10 or 15 years back, so आपके पास MAC address cannot be changed. This was the firm address over a network interface card, and it will never remain. It will remain same throughout his life until you are going to change your network interface card. But nowadays we do have certain softwares that are available. Through them, you are going to mask your MAC address too, or you are going to change your MAC addresses too. So I think and nowadays we can also change in certain situation. There are certain background reasons for that you are going to change your MAC addresses too. But this has only been applicable for the public IP addresses before that. But now you can also change your MAC addresses too. Yes.
Sir, we have disabled the chat again, enabled the chat again. आप check करें कि आपके पास अब chat आ रही है?
मेरे पास chat. Let me share my whole screen with you. and I can then show you that what's the problem screen. Now you can see my screen. This is the situation. If you can see my screen, can you see my screen?
Yes sir, I can see the screen.
डॉक्टर
सर
कासिम
आपके
अली
यहाँ पे
जी जी
साइट पे चैट शो नहीं हो रही?
नहीं हो
मीटिंग
रही ना।
चैट जहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है।
आप देखिए ना, नहीं ना, मैं आपको सामने है ना, ये लिखा हुआ है कि डॉक्टर कासिम अली लेफ्ट द चैट, यू कांट सेंड मैसेज बिकॉज यू आर नॉट अ मेंबर ऑफ द चैट, डोंट नो।
Yes sir, I don't know why it's coming. खैर sir, it
अली मैं
was last question by Afnan.
सेटिंग में जाके अनम्यूट भी किया मैंने, सेव भी कर रहा हूँ इसको मैं, बट आई कुडंट गेट एनी टाइप ऑफ रिस्पॉन्स। या प्लीज द क्वेश्चन।
Sir, it was the last question. You can continue.
Okay, this means this was the last question. Okay, all right. So I mean 130, how much time is left? I mean, how longer I have to take this lecture?
Sir, let me check the recording timing.
Yeah. I think 17TL26 has some question. He has raised up his hand.
Sir, he haven't dropped any question in the chat box.
Okay, okay. So if you can tell me the time, so I am going to wrap up that because I have a lot of 69 slides are there, you know, this is a complete computer networks. So still we are at 17 slide. तो मैं फिर इसको ना उस टाइम के अंदर अंदर थोड़ा सा शॉर्ट करके एंड करूंगा. So that's why I'm asking.
Sir, management team is saying still we have 20 minutes.
20 minutes. This means that we need to end up at 10:30, right? Okay.
Yep, sir.
Okay. All right. All right. So I have told you regarding the TCP and UDP protocols. Now the TCP and UDP protocols are work on a transport layer. First thing, TCP is your connection oriented protocol and UDP is called as your universal datagram protocol. This is what you can call it as connection less protocol. डेफिनेशन में बता चुका हूँ, कनेक्शन ओरिएंटेड में आपको रिसीवर की तरफ से एक्नॉलेजमेंट आती है और यूडीपी की तरफ से आपको कोई एक्नॉलेजमेंट नहीं आती. I would like to give an example that any type of important communication always been done through a TCP. I mean, those communication which require an acknowledgement from the receiver at any cost. This type of communication is being called as it is being done using a TCP protocol, right? And when we are talking about a UDP protocol, UDP protocols are very, I mean to say that lightweight. They don't require any type of I mean to say that acknowledgement, and they use to have certain sort of port numbers also. So if you can look into this particular diagram, ये आपके पास डिफरेंट सॉर्ट ऑफ पोर्ट्स हैं जो आपके पास यूज होते हैं ओवर दैट पर्टिकुलर लेयर. आई मीन टीसीपी आईपी, देयर इज नो एनी पोर्ट नंबर. नेट बीयूआई, नेट बायोस 137, 139 and 150, right? HTTP, everybody is well aware about that particular protocol, hypertext transfer protocol 80, HTTPS 43, FTP 2021, SSH secure socket, securely connects to a remote network devices, that's 22. Telnet, remotely connectivity 23, POP3, 110, IMAP, SMTP, and all these things. Now see, all these are the services. Make sure आपके जो protocols है ना, ये आपके पास different services देते हैं. HTTP आपके पास जो भी internet connectivity है उसके लिए यूज होता है. HTTPS secure, FTP आपके पास जो है वो file transfer protocol के लिए यूज होता है. Any if you want to transfer any type of file, you need to use this. Now see, अगर आपने अपने नेटवर्क के ऊपर आप समझते हैं कि जी मैंने इंटरनेट ट्रैफिक को ब्लॉक करना है, आप क्या करेंगे? पोर्ट नंबर 80 को ब्लॉक कर देंगे। यूर इंटरनेट ट्रैफिक, यूर वेब इज वर्किंग बट योर इंटरनेट इज नॉट वर्किंग, आई मीन आपका डेटा सेंड और रिसीव नहीं होगा। अगर आपने फाइल ट्रांसफरिंग प्रोटोकॉल को डिसेबल कर दिया, आपने पोर्ट नंबर 2021 को डिसेबल कर दिया, नाउ यू कैन नॉट send and receive files over a network. Over a network, I'm going to tell you that. ठीक है जी. In the same way, POP3, you have SMTP. These are the protocols which are being used for sending and receiving the email. If you are to disable your email, for that reason, you need to block these particular ports. The reason is why you are going to disable them. Disable देने का मतलब ये है कि अब अगर आप किसी ऐसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के अंदर काम कर रहे हैं जहाँ पे सिक्योरिटी इश्यूज हैं, तो आप ये कहते हैं कि जी कोई बंदा आपके पास से डेटा को ट्रांसफर ना कर सके थ्रू एन ईमेल और थ्रू अ फाइल ट्रांसफर, तो आप उसका FTP ब्लॉक कर दें, आप उसका POP3 और SMTP ब्लॉक कर दें। आई मीन वो सिर्फ ईमेल्स रिसीव कर सकता है, सी कर सकता है, बट ही कैन नॉट सेंड और आई मीन सेंड एनी डेटा, कैन नॉट अटैच एनी फाइल विद योर डेटा, with your emails or something like that. So such type of security measures can be done by applying certain sort of configuration over the ports. ठीक है, इनकी description आगे लिखी हुई है, आप पढ़ सकते हैं, and I can I mean share these slides with you guys or with your admin, so that and even that is available on my website also, that is www.drqasimali.com. my all slides are being available, and this one also over my website, right? अच्छा जी, अब हमारे पास आ जाता है फिजिकल नेटवर्क कंपोनेंट्स. व्हाट इज मोडेम? I would like to give you a general idea. मोडेम stands for modulation and demodulation, right? आपके पास दो चीजें होती हैं, या तो आपके पास लैन कार्ड होता है या आपके पास मोडेम होता है. लैन कार्ड आपको लोकल एरिया नेटवर्क से कनेक्ट करता है और मोडेम आपको वैन से कनेक्ट करता है. दिस मस्ट बी क्लियर टू ऑल ऑफ यू, राइट? मोडेम इज अ मॉड्यूलेशन एंड डीमॉड्यूलेशन. एक एंगल के ऊपर, एक साइड के ऊपर आपके पास मॉड्यूलेशन होती है और दूसरे एंगल के ऊपर आपके पास डीमॉड्यूलेशन होती है सिग्नल की, ठीक है? बट मोडेम ऑलवेज कनेक्ट्स यू with wider area network, or you may call it as a WAN. While when you're talking about LAN, LAN is going to connect you for a local area network, right? Now see, if you talk about any physical network device, you can see this particular diagram. You people are well aware about all these things. You may see here the computers, right? You may see here the hubs. Hubs are the non-intelligent device, we know that. मैं आपको स्विच और हब में डिफरेंस बता दूं. स्विच इज एन इंटेलिजेंट डिवाइस. इट इज गोइंग टू सेंड अ डेटा टू अ पर्टिकुलर नोड, आई मीन टू से दैट लिंक. बट हब जो होता है, जैसे ही वो उसके पास डेटा रिसीव होता है, इट इज गोइंग टू ब्रॉडकास्ट दैट पर्टिकुलर डेटा टू ऑल द कनेक्टेड डिवाइसेस टू दैट पर्टिकुलर डिवाइस और हब, राइट? सो दिस इज द मेन डिफरेंस. हब आपको नजर आ रहा होगा यहाँ पे, डेफिनेटली लिखा हुआ होगा. देन यू हैव अ स्विच, right? Then you have the router, then you have the wireless access point. All these are being here, I mean you can see in this particular diagram. Then you have the network media. This is the twisted pair copper cabling. We have the fiber optic cabling, and we have the radio waves. Now all these things are being combined to form a physical network, right? You have a network devices, I mean आपके पास computers होने चाहिए, आपके पास hubs, switches, routers और wireless access points होने चाहिए. These are the devices which are being used in any network. और अगर हमने इन सबको connect करना है, I mean if we need to connect them by using a media, so we must have either a twisted pair copper cabling, or we have the fiber optic cabling, or we have the radio waves. That is called as your wireless media, right? So the upper one, the two one are the wired media, the third one is your wireless media. अब hub क्या होता है? Extend the range of a signal by receiving then regenerate it and sending it to all other ports. Allow for collision on the network segment and are often not a good solution. Also called concentrator because they serve as a central connection point for a LAN. अब देखें, hub आपके पास एक non-intelligent device होती है. It is going to connect multiple devices over a network, right? When they are going to receive any sort of data from one device over that particular hub, it is going to broadcast that information that to all the devices which are connected to that particular hub, right? Then we have the bridges and switches. A bridge has the intelligence to determine if an incoming frame is to be sent to a different segment or dropped. A bridge has two ports. I have told you in your question that it has two ports. At one end, at the one end and the other end, your data has to be sent from one segment to another segment that needs to be connected using a device that is called as a bridge. And what is a switch? It is a multi-port bridge. स्विच के ब्रिज के अंदर तो आपके पास दो पोर्ट्स होंगे ना कि यहाँ से डेटा उठाया और इस पोर्ट को भेज दिया, दैट इज ओनली टू पोर्ट्स। लेकिन स्विच जो है वो मल्टीपर्पज और मल्टी पोर्ट ब्रिज होता है, इट हैज सेवरल पोर्ट्स। नाउ if you are going to receive a data at a single port, that data would be sent to another port, only that port that data has been received। ठीक है, आपके पास सारे पोर्ट्स पे वो ब्रॉडकास्ट नहीं हो जाएगा, लेकिन that needs to be sent only to the dedicated port for which it is being sent so far, right? That's what we have, right? Then we have another device that is called as PoE, जिसे हम कहते हैं power over Ethernet. That switch transfers small amount of DC current over an Ethernet cable along with data to power over Ethernet devices such as Wi-Fi access points or like that. I mean, this is a special type of switch or a special type of device that is going to provide that direct current or DC current to all the devices or the Ethernet cables which are being connected to that particular devices, right? तो आपने कभी देखा होगा कि जो आपके पास कनेक्टेड वायर्स होती हैं, अगर वो उनके अंदर एक हल्का हल्का डीसी करंट मूव कर रहा होता है, दैट इज बिकॉज दैट इज बीइंग प्रोवाइडेड बाय certain sort of device that is called as your power over an Ethernet PoE switch, right? Then router is something is a WAN device। कभी भी आपने इस चीज को ऐसे अंडरस्टैंड करना है कि router is going to decide how your data is being routed over an internet or over a network, right? Devices that connect entire network to each other, they uses an IP addresses to forward packet to other network. Now one thing that you need to understand, router always works on an IP address and your switch always works on your MAC address। आपका जो डेटा स्विच के अंदर फॉरवर्ड रिसीव बैकवर्ड मूव होगा, दैट ऑलवेज बीन डिसाइडेड बाय योर मैक एड्रेसेस के जी। और स्विच के अंदर आपके पास मैक एड्रेस टेबल होती है और राउटर के अंदर आपके पास राउटिंग टेबल होती है, और राउटिंग टेबल के अंदर आईपी एड्रेसेस होते हैं और मैक एड्रेस टेबल के अंदर आपके पास मैक एड्रेसेस होते हैं। सो बेस्ड ऑन दोज पर्टिकुलर आईपी एड्रेसेस, your router has to decide what is the source IP address and where I need to go, that is called as your destination IP address। अब उसके अंदर कैसे सिलेक्शन होती है, दैट इज अगेन अनदर डिस्कशन। आपके पास नेटवर्क अलग किया जाता है, फिर आपके पास होस्ट अलग किया जाता है, देन योर डेटा वुड बी सेंट टू अ पर्टिकुलर नेटवर्क। इफ दैट नेटवर्क इज कनेक्टेड टू अ राउटर, योर डेटा हैज बीन ड्रॉप्ड ओवर दैट पर्टिकुलर राउटर। अब देखें, लेट्स सपोज I would like to give you an example. I am sending some data or some email from Pakistan to USA, right? My friend is living in USA and I'm sending that data. On the way, we don't know how many routers are there, maybe millions of router, maybe thousands of router, maybe hundreds of router. We don't know about that because internet is a combination of many routers, so it is servers and all that, right? We forget about that. Now what happens when your data is being going out of the default gateway? It would be the part of multiple routers over a network। ये आपने जहन में बात बिठा लेनी है, जब इंटरनेट के ऊपर डेटा आपका जाएगा तो वो डिफरेंट राउटर्स को क्रॉस करेगा। जैसे ही वो पहले राउटर पे जाएगा, it needs to be checked whether the data that has been sent by the sender is being for me, for my networks, or it needs to be sent to the next device, that is the next router। अब वो कौन चेक करेगा? अब जहां जहां से आपका डेटा आया है ना, उसकी सोर्स और जहां पे आपका डेटा जाना है उसकी डेस्टिनेशन, ये दोनों चीजें आपके पैकेट के अंदर होती हैं, सोर्स आईपी और डेस्टिनेशन आईपी। ठीक है, अब उस सोर्स आईपी और डेस्टिनेशन आईपी के अंदर क्या होता है, नेटवर्क पोर्शन भी होता है, होस्ट पोर्शन भी होता है। नाउ योर राउटर इज गोइंग टू चेक द डेस्टिनेशन नेटवर्क ऑफ योर आईपी। जैसे हमने कहा ना 192.168.10.1, अगर ये एक होस्ट पोर्शन था तो इसका जो पहले तीन पोर्शन है ना, क्योंकि दिस इज अ क्लास सी आईपी एड्रेस, तो 192.168.10 ये आपके पास चेक किया जाएगा कि इस तरह का नेटवर्क क्या इस राउटर के साथ अटैच्ड है जिसके ऊपर इस वक्त आपका डेटा पड़ा हुआ है। इफ यस, योर डेटा वुड बी ड्रॉप्ड to that particular network, and then from that particular network the data would be sent to a particular host and so on over a LAN or like that। But if that network is not connected with your router, with the current router where you stand right now, your router would be forwarding that particular data or for that packet to the next hop router। next hop router का मतलब ये है अपने साथी राउटर, जो उसका next hop router है वहां पे वो सेंड कर देगा। The same procedure would be followed over there। It would be checking its own network। जो उसके साथ कनेक्टेड नेटवर्क्स हैं वो उसमें चेक करेगा कि जो डेस्टिनेशन नेटवर्क है या डेस्टिनेशन आईपी है उसका नेटवर्क इस पर्टिकुलर राउटर के नेटवर्क के साथ कनेक्टेड है या नहीं है. इफ यस, data would be dropped over here. Otherwise, if not, then data would be sent to the next router. And this process would follow until you would find the destination. और destination आपकी कैसे पता चलेगी? जब आपका डेटा एक फाइनल राउटर के ऊपर पहुंचेगा, वहां पे आपकी राउटिंग टेबल आपकी डेस्टिनेशन आईपी एड्रेस को कंपेयर करेगी. And then it would be checking कि 192.168.10 is a network of a destination computer, of a destination router, whether that particular network is connected to this particular router. Yes, it is connected. Now your data or that packet is being dropped over that particular router. This means that अब वहां से ड्रॉप हुआ, अब वो नेटवर्क से निकल के आपके पास लैन में चले जाएगा. ठीक है जी, राउटर से निकल के, वैन से निकल के वो कहाँ चले जाएगा? लैन के अंदर. नाउ लैन वुड वर्क ऑन मैक एड्रेसेस. अब वहां पे आईपी एड्रेसेस यूज नहीं होंगे. अब आपके पास जो मैक, क्योंकि आपके पैकेट के अंदर सोर्स और डेस्टिनेशन आईपी भी होती है और सोर्स और डेस्टिनेशन मैक भी होता है, लेकिन आईपी आपकी काम करती है नेटवर्क लेयर के ऊपर और मैक जो काम करता है वो आपका काम करता है डेटा लिंक लेयर के ऊपर. तो राउटर का काम है नेटवर्क को सपोर्ट करना, आईपी को. अब जब आपका आईपी डिसाइड हो गया कि ये नेटवर्क के ऊपर डेटा इस नेटवर्क के लिए था, वहां पे ड्रॉप होके वो नीचे आएगा, नीचे वाली लेयर के ऊपर, कहाँ पे? डेटा लिंक. अब आपका जो कंप्यूटर है, जो आपका स्विच है, इट इज गोइंग टू चेक इट्स स्विचिंग टेबल, राइट, कि जी ये वाला मैक एड्रेस आपके पास आपके स्विच के किस पोर्ट के साथ कनेक्टेड है. लेट्स सपोज इट इज कनेक्टेड विद द 14th पोर्ट नंबर ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर कंप्यूटर. तो आपका स्विच उसको डायरेक्ट कर देगा 14th पोर्ट नंबर के ऊपर, राइट, एंड देन दैट डेटा एग्जैक्टली वुड बी रिसीव्ड बाय दैट पर्टिकुलर कंप्यूटर. This is how your routers works, how your WANs and LANs works, right? In the same way, you have the wireless access point, provide network access to wireless devices such as laptop and PDAs. We know that आपके पास wireless access points होते हैं हर जगह के ऊपर. Use radio waves to communicate with radios in computers, PDAs and other wireless access points. Have limited range of coverage. जो आपके पास wireless access points लगे हुए होते हैं, through which your mobiles are being connected, your PDAs are being connected, and you are going to send and receive the data wirelessly through those particular access points.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse
Yeah.
me, sir.
Yes,
Sir,
please.
we have only just 8 minutes left, so can we devote this time to question answers? And if you
Yes.
feel
Yes, please. You can have a question
okay,
answer.
so participants, you can ask the question if you have any. Kindly, if you have any question, you can drop in the chat box. And for those who want to make this webinar memorable, we have a feedback form. You can open it in the chat box. So please kindly fill it. It will be it's a special attention. Kindly fill the form, that is feedback form. You can access it in the chat box. Excuse me, sir. There is a question. What is MAC address?
MAC address. Actually, MAC stands for Media Access Control. This is an address that is being imposed upon your network interface card. And that is being given to your computer when your computer is being manufactured, or you may call it as your NIC, network interface card, is being manufactured. Now, the main responsibility, MAC works on your data link layer. ठीक है जी, जो आपकी 7th लेयर कहलाती है, 6th लेयर कहलाती है, 6th लेयर, ठीक है जी, डेटा लिंक लेयर. अब इसका काम क्या होता है? इट ऑलवेज वर्क्स ऑन योर स्विचेस, राइट. अब स्विचेस के अंदर आपके पास मैक एड्रेस टेबल होती है. Now let's suppose, and this is an hexadecimal value, something like let's suppose if there are three computers which are being connected with a switch, one is going to send data to another computer over the same network. Now there is no IP inside a switch. Your switch does not interpret an IP address. It always works on a MAC address. तो अब क्या करेगा, जो फर्स्ट कंप्यूटर है, it is going to send data to a second computer. It would be sending, I mean, source or destination MAC address automatically would be attached with that frame, and that frame would be sent over a switch. स्विच क्या करेगा, आपका जो सेंडर और रिसीवर का मैक एड्रेस है वो निकालेगा, और रिसीवर के मैक एड्रेस को चेक करेगा अपनी मैक टेबल के अंदर कि जी वो जो रिसीवर का जो मैक एड्रेस है दैट इज कनेक्टेड विथ व्हिच पोर्ट नंबर, राइट. अब जिस पोर्ट के ऊपर वो कनेक्टेड होगा, इफ इट इज इनसाइड द मैक एड्रेस टेबल, तो दैट वुड फॉरवर्ड दैट पर्टिकुलर डेटा ओवर दैट पर्टिकुलर पोर्ट नंबर, और उस पोर्ट नंबर के साथ वो डेस्टिनेशन कंप्यूटर कनेक्टेड है, and that data would be sent to that particular computer. This is a very simple way and this is a very intelligent way to send and receive the data. On the other way, हब आपके पास क्या कर दी है, हब आपके पास ये करता है कि जैसे ही आपका डेटा एक एंड से रिसीव हुआ हब के पास, तो उसने क्या करना है, डेटा को आई मीन ब्रॉडकास्ट कर देना है टू ऑल द कनेक्टेड कंप्यूटर्स ओवर अ नेटवर्क ओवर दैट पर्टिकुलर हब. तो अब होगा क्या कि वो आपका डेटा जिस डेस्टिनेशन के लिए नहीं भी था उसके लिए वो चला गया, जिसकी वजह से आपके पास बैंडविड्थ जो है वो रिड्यूस हो जाती है. सो दिस इज हाउ योर मैक एड्रेस और मैक एड्रेस टेबल्स और स्विच वर्क्स. आई थिंक इट्स क्लियर.
All right, sir. Sir, there's another question. That is, can we get into someone's computer by knowing their MAC address?
Can we break in into someone's computer if we came to know? Yes, why not? I mean, if you do have certain tools are available. If you know the MAC address is always unchanged address, and once you know the MAC address, corresponding IP address can be acquired, and based on that you can break in or you can compromise anyone's computer. There must not be an issue because it's an address.
All right, all right, all right. Thank you, sir. We have just 2 minutes left, so I would like to thank you all for joining. And first of all, I would like to thank you to you that your presence make this webinar share all your experienced knowledge with such an amazing way. And thank ICS team who made possible for us to have such an experienced speaker, the marketing team, the management team. Thank you. Thank you to the participants who have filled the feedback form, and have make this webinar interactive. So if you have filled the form, you can leave. And thank you, sir, again.
Thank you everybody for listening me. And if you have any question, you can ask every. And one thing I would like to tell you, there is my website, and sorry, website also. My YouTube channel is also there. I think 19 Software. You people know that, so you can tell everyone. They can go there, and there are all my lectures. Video lectures are available on computer networks as well as in information security. So you can get a lot of information from them. Thank you again, and have a good night. Thank you.